Okay, great. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is our candidate school for the November 3rd, 2020 presidential general election. My name is Bren Lair. I am the Elections Division Coordinator in Candidate Services here at the Registrar of Voters Office in Santa Clara County. And I know you all have a very busy schedule today, so I want to be mindful of that. I just have a few housekeeping notes, and then I'm going to introduce Virginia and Christina, and then we'll get started. So as I mentioned just a minute ago, I'm Bren Lair, and then we also have Christina Rivas-Louis on board here. She is the Elections Process Supervisor in Candidate Services. She is a great resource to go to. Also, we have the Assistant Registrar of Voters, Virginia Bloom, here, another great resource. Together, or among all of us, we have, close to 30 to 35 years worth of experience. So great knowledge, and we're here to help. So in terms of technical stuff, as you log on, please be mindful that background noise can be heard, so keep your mute on if possible. We will have opportunity for questions and answers to be heard after every maybe 2 to 3 slides as I go through each one of the subject matters. But at the same time, if you are all familiar with the chat, you can also utilize that. Christina will be there to help field some questions that come in. If you do pose a question, we ask that you please put your full name and district you are running for prior to your question. The chat sessions will be recorded along with this video, so we will have an opportunity to give that back to you guys in case you want to refresh information. It will go online. The video will go online, but the chat session will not. And that's about it for now. I want to open up for any quick questions as we get going. Otherwise, we'll start. So if anybody has any quick questions. Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to go ahead and get going. So on our agenda today, what we're going to be talking about is the candidate guidelines for issuing and submitting nomination paperwork. As you know, with the new COVID restrictions and the pandemic, everybody really is changing many of the processes. So that's what we are actually doing here at the ROV. We have created quite a few new fillable forms that can be submitted and filed electronically. So issued and filed electronically. We'll go over that and those guidelines for what you need to do to make that happen. Now, in the past, many of you who are running or rerunning for an office have actually been issued nomination documents through your district. Due to these new changes, we are discontinuing that. So you will need to be in contact with the ROV to actually be issued nomination paperwork. And I will speak to that in a little bit. We're going to go over some dates to remember. I have some candidate resources that will be very helpful for you, and then I will give you a quick tutorial on those electronic filing and fillable nomination forms. They will not be going online. We cannot issue those forms until open of the nomination period, so do not expect those online. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the guidelines for issuing candidate nomination documents are, you can now do this electronically or in person. It's at your discretion. You can either give us a call, we can set up an appointment with you. You can walk into the ROV. here in Candidate Services. We can also mail you forms. We can print them out and mail those forms to you. And we also have this new option of being online on a Zoom call with you and providing you with a link to a secured OneDrive email invitation. So those documents go to your link to your email. You have the secured folder that no one other than you and the election specialist have access to, and you can work through all of your forms together through a Zoom meeting and online simultaneously. We also, because some offices require deposits for candidate statements, we can receive those through the mail, overnight service. You can drop it off again. You can, set an appointment to come and talk to a candidate specialist. And we do accept cash, check, or credit card payments, but only credit card payments in person, because we do have to check the ID on that. So receiving the forms electronically, if you choose this option, you are required to request the forms by signing the request to receive documents form and then submitting that first before anything can actually happen. That document is online and available, but again, over here to the right, contact Candidate Services. We can get you to that information. We're at 408-299-8639, and an election specialist can work with you to help get you set up to that regard. So any questions so far on just issuing documents? Okay. So, and I just heard we're actually unable to accept credit cards for candidate statements only because those are deposits. They are not the entire amount that could be potentially billed for that candidate statement. So just a side note on that. Okay. Okay, so the next is the execution of candidate documents. Very similar process. And we'll speak to this a little bit later again when we go over some of the forms. If you have a document that requires an oath, there's various ways you can do that. You don't have to come in to do that, but you can do it with a notary, then deliver those in a way, walk-in appointment, mail, overnight service, at your discretion, what you need to, however you can take care of that. I have to stress, and I'm going to stress this again and again, if you are filing electronic documents, we cannot accept those as just being scanned documents or scanned documents of checks or whatever you are sending in. We absolutely have to have the original documents submitted to us before you are eligible to run for that office and be put on the ballot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That has to be the way it is. So however it is you need to get your original documents to us, you need to make sure that that occurs. We will be reaching out to you to let you know that we received the original documents, so you can confirm that, but you are also welcome to contact us. The mail, as you know, is very slow right now. So you do need to be cognizant of that. Was there a question? I just heard somebody. No? Okay. Once we receive your scanned documents, we can start the review process and then reach out to the candidate to ensure that information is submitted correctly, or if there's any corrections that need to happen before you actually file. So essentially, when you are sending your scanned documents in, you are not filing your documents. It's the original documents that need to be here that will be accepted as a filed document. So there are opportunities for you to make some changes with our help to do that. But once you file those documents, after that, you cannot make those changes. So you want to make sure everything's done and filled in correctly. So, and I think I just already spoke to this. So the documents are can be submitted again in person here at the ROV, and our office hours are Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. You can do it by appointment. You can overnight mail or just regular mail, and we'll be sure to send a receipt, likely either a call or by email to let you know. We're going to have quite a few of those come in, hundreds of documents coming into us. So we will be quite busy during that time. So again, if you do something in a reasonable amount of time, please contact us, let us know that you haven't heard from us, and we will find out if we did in fact receive your originals. Also, as part of filling out the documents, you will need to acknowledge and sign the candidate guidelines for issuing and submitting nomination paperwork. Those are also online and in much more detail than I'm referring to here. It provides more contact information, addresses, a lot more detail. So you will be receiving that in your candidate packet, but also I recommend that you go online sooner rather than later to get acquainted with that, and that you can find at secvote.org/candidates and measures information. I don't think I said that right, but I can get the information over to Bonnie, and it is likely also online as well, but I'll make sure that goes over to Bonnie so you know where to find that stuff online. Yeah.
Hey, it's Christina. Can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure our sound, everybody can hear us okay. If we're having any sound issues, please send me a message. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. Does anybody have any questions in terms of the submitting the electronic forms?
I do.
Yes.
The website that you just ran by us, sccvote.reg. And then you said candidates and measures information. I'm not sure that that's a website.
It's a /, it's secvote.org/ candidates and measures information.
Okay, candidates and measures information has no punctuation?
Correct.
And after reg / or just slash?
It's org.
Oh, .org.
Yeah.
Slash
so .org /.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Or just go to secvote.com. Is it .com or .org? Oh, it's .org. Okay. secvote.org. And then you can go to the
Yeah, they're just like closing down.
Okay. So I've muted somebody. I'm not sure if it was the person I was speaking to. So hopefully you can get to that information, but let me know, and we're happy to also reach back out and give that information out, okay? So any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next phase of this.
I got a question.
Sure.
You said the documents cannot be submitted until July 13th. When's the earliest date we can request them?
The nomination period is July 13th through August 7th, and you can request starting at 8:00 a.m. on July 13th through 5:00 p.m. on August 7th. However, I recommend, excuse, did you have a question?
So we can't request them until the nomination period opens?
Correct. Yeah, they can't be issued until the nomination, so you cannot receive them until the nomination period opens. That's correct. You can set appointments, though. You can call us and say, we need to set an appointment. But other than that, no, you can't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions before I move on? Okay. Okay, so here's a list of some very important dates for you all to remember. As I just spoke to just a moment ago, our nomination period opens July 13th through August 7th. That is again when we can issue and accept the filing of your nomination documents. You have to have the filing of the nomination documents in by 5:00 p.m. On August 7th, as you know, and accurately, so that you can qualify to be on the ballot. So I highly, highly suggest that you get your information as early as possible, get those documents as early as possible, and get them filed, because if there's anything that needs to be changed during our review, that's the time to do it before it's filed. Once it's filed, that's what you get. So FPP semi-annual statements are due if you have a current open campaign committee. Those, of course, will be due July 31st. So many of you already know that. The extension period for ballot designation and candidate statements for contests not in extension. So as you know, there will be, if an incumbent in the office you are running for does not file documents, then the nomination period will extend out another 5 days. So that would go through August 12th. And so in the meantime, though, anybody that is not in extension can also file ballot designation and candidate statements during that August 8th and August 17th timeframe. An extension period if candidate does not file, oh, there it is, August 8th through August 12th. I think those were kind of switched around a little bit. Examination period for ballot designation and candidate statements for contest in extension. Those are public documents after the end of the nomination period. And so as soon as we get all of the information from after August 12th, they will be available for public review between August 13th and August 24th. So there's a 10-day period on that. On August 13th, we will do the randomized alpha drawing, and that is where we will determine how your name will be placed or appear on the ballot based on the pull of the letters in the alphabet. If you are intending to campaign during your election, then you have a few campaign requirements, pre-election statement campaign requirements. The first one would be due on September 24th. The second one is actually due on October 20th, and then that reporting period is September 2nd through October 17th. And then we also have the write-in candidacy period, which starts September 8th through October 20th. So people who did not have an opportunity to come in and file paperwork can do that during that time frame as a write-in candidate. Election day, of course, is November 3rd, 2020. Then post-election, we'll have our official canvass of vote. Those are the certification of results that will by December 3rd, 2020. And then the next statement, annual statement, you still have an open committee, is due February 1 for the reporting period, October 18th through December 31st. So that finalizes the entire section of that year to the FPPC for your reporting requirements. And then, as many of you already know, you would then take office the second Friday in December after the election. So that is per Education Code, Section 5017. Okay. So I had a request to go back to the previous slide. Was there a question on this slide from someone? Oh,
I have one if the other person doesn't.
okay. I think, oh, go ahead, Mary.
I'm not familiar with all of the terminology. I don't know what not an extension or an extension actually means.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the nomination period will extend out 5 additional days. So if there is an incumbent that is terming out or decides not to rerun for his or her office, then after the end of the nomination period on August 7th, the office will actually go into extension, which means anybody other than the incumbent that wants to come in can now file past that original nomination period to try and get their name on the ballot, to try and be eligible to get their name on the ballot. So the government. Okay, Mary, you raised your hand again. Do you have another question?
Yeah, that wasn't me. Here's my
okay.
On slide 4, there was something we could do prior to the filing period or the nomination period, but I didn't understand what that was.
Prior to the nomination period, you should just receive. I'm not recalling. Somebody did ask a question about that, but you can receive all the documents. And I mean, excuse me, you can receive and review.
Do you see on your slide 5 where it says original documents can be submitted at the start of and prior to the nomination period? What does that mean?
Well, you can come in on July 13th, be issued, say 8:00 a.m., be issued your documents and fill them out and then submit them the same day.
Oh, so it's not prior to.
That's correct. You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
That should be prior to end of the nomination period. That's the start of and prior to end of the nomination period. So that was not written correctly. So you're correct. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? We got 2 other participants raising their hand.
Hi, I have a question, and my question has to do with forms that are available on the state website, particularly Form 410 and 501. Are these the same type of forms that would be part of a candidate's packet that's going to be provided at the Registrar of Voters?
Yes, those are actually Fair Political Practice Commission forms, and we can certainly provide those to you. I will actually be speaking to those requirements at the end of the presentation, so you will get more information about that. But essentially, it's when you are campaigning, you would need to file, well, your 501's your intention statements. You have to file that regardless. But if you intend to campaign, you would have to file the Form 410 and then the 460, of course. But we'll speak to that a little bit more in a little bit, if you're okay with waiting.
I'm fine. Great. Thank you.
Great.
When we get there, also, someone's asking for us to explain the pre-election statements when we get to that point.
Okay, and those are essentially the same pre-election forms, Form 460s, but those are only required when you're actually still campaigning. So if you're not campaigning, they will not be a requirement because you will not have the requirement to file your Form 460. But that will be explained more in just a few minutes. So was there any other questions outside of the Form FPPC forms? I know there was a couple more hands up. No? Okay.
And I wanted to clarify that the extension period does not apply to any contest where there is not an incumbent.
Okay. So a vacancy.
That's correct.
So if you're in a short-term vacancy, if there's an appointed position in a short-term vacancy, then it would not apply because that unless you're an appointed incumbent.
No, if there is no incumbent at all, then the contest does not go into extension.
Okay.
If somebody is the appointed incumbent, then that makes them the incumbent.
Right. Okay. So if you have a vacancy, then it does not go into extension.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so candidate resources, again, we are here at the Register of Voters office at 1555 Burger Drive, Building 2. You can contact us. Our main phone number is 408-299-3000, but I suggest you use the 408-299-8639. That will get you straight into candidate services. But if you do need other services, you can certainly call the 299-3000 number. Our email here in the candidate services division is email/rov/nom@rov.sec.gov.org. That email will get to everyone here in the division. So no matter who you're trying to get in touch with, someone will get it and will get it to the right appropriate person. So you don't necessarily need to know who you need to get to. We will take care of it. I would still call and confirm, though, that we did receive it, because we will be very busy with emails and trying to get through all of that. There's also the Fair Political Practices Commission. Now, the phone line is not being manned right now, so keep that in mind. If you have questions about your FPPC forms, then the advice line for the email is open, but not the phone line. So give the advice email 2 or 3 days response time. I don't know how many people are actually looking at that, but it could take some time for you to actually receive an answer. We are also here, but these are not our forms, and so it's better for you to be in contact with the FPPC to ensure, based on your situation, we can certainly answer general questions, but based on your situation and need for understanding what is required of you to file or report, then the FPPC is the resource you need to be in contact with to ask those questions. Other resources, here is the website here, www.secvote.org/candidates and measures information. This is the website that you go to for information on the November 3rd election. So that will provide office holders lists. It provides, it has the candidate guide up there. It will have all the qualified unofficial candidate, list of candidates will go up. Many, many resources will be very helpful for you to have that as things are progressing throughout the election. Again, you'll be receiving your candidate packet, so please review that very carefully. Please review the candidate guide. Again, it is online. It has almost every answer that you could possibly need to help you get through this, and it is a great tool to get through and answer those nomination period questions. Any questions so far?
Yes, I believe earlier you said that we could no longer get a packet through the school district office.
Correct.
Okay, so we only receive it if we get it online or walk in, right?
You won't get it online. They do not get posted online. What you need to do is contact the ROV, and an election specialist will assist you with how you want to get your candidate packet, how you want to receive that packet, because you can do that. We can print it out, we can mail it to you. I do highly suggest that you use it electronically. We would submit it to you by a secured OneDrive folder through an invitation through your email. We can also put it on a thumb drive for you if you come into the office here. There's various ways that we can work with you, but the most important thing is that you need to, before any electronic documents are submitted, you have to fill out the request to receive documents form. So that is a requirement of the Secretary of State, or excuse me, I think it's the Secretary of State, to ensure that we get the information from you correctly and in a secured way, in a secured manner.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, just 1 minute. I need some water.
I'll take this opportunity to look at some of the questions. We have Nancy's asking if we could explain more about the write-in candidate period when we have a moment.
Sure. The write-in candidate period allows for individuals who did not have an opportunity to file during the regular nomination period or during the extension period if the office goes into extension. The candidates will fill out every form that a normal candidate, coming in during the normal nomination period would fill out, with the exception to not having their name on the ballot or a candidate statement. So that's the only exception to that. But they will be able to, they'll be in as a write-in on the ballot. So there'll be a section, and I think a list of write-in names goes to the voting centers, and then people will have that information. Is that correct, Virginia?
That is correct. So during the write-in period, which is much closer to the date of the election, that is the nomination period for a candidate who wants to run as a write-in, and they have all the same qualifications of another candidate, meaning they have to collect nomination signatures if nomination signatures are needed, file the declarations, all the required paperwork at that particular point in time.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions before we go on? Okay. So we're going to dive into some of the nomination forms here. Now, I will speak to it very generally, and I will certainly answer questions. However, during your time when you are working with the election specialist, they will be available for you to work with you and answer those, deeper questions that you might have. Again, there are the candidate guide has a lot of helpful information to answer those questions. The FPPC has a lot of helpful information to answer questions as well, in terms of various guides out there. I think I just saw Nancy has a question or raised her hand. Was there a question that just came up? No? Okay. So as you can see here, here's a list of some of the forms we're going to go through. The only two that I'm not going to speak to in this presentation is the cybersecurity and the Department of Transportation. Essentially, the cybersecurity just provides you some information. It's just a memo that provides you information on your risks and other things that you should be aware of. Also, Department of Transportation Statement of Responsibility is just, they just want to ensure that you are going to be responsible when putting out your polling signs or your political signs, and ensure that they are not on any Caltrans areas or highways that could be distracting to other people. So just make sure you'll want to read through that letter and understand that as well. So the candidate information request form, otherwise known as a CIRF, allows candidate services to gather information from you about a candidate and to ensure that you are eligible to run for that office. So some of the information that we're going to include on the or need from you is whether you are the incumbent or not. Make sure you put your first, middle, and last name, but please, please, please do not, if you have a hyphenated name, put a hyphenated last name as part of your middle name, and it gets very confusing and it's very difficult for us to distinguish whether it's a middle name or last name. So if you have a hyphenated name or two last names that aren't hyphenated, please make sure they're in the last name section, not in the middle name. Also, we need to get your mailing address, your other contact information, emailing address, if you're running for a full term or a short term, and then also information related to phonetic spelling of your name. The purpose of the phonetic spelling of your name is to ensure that when, because we have the remote accessible vote by mail that allows individuals with disabilities to have access to ballots, our ballot layout division will use audio recordings to create ballots. And so to ensure that your name is pronounced properly, that is what they use for that purpose, among other things. But it's helpful to know that information. Any questions?
Yes, name is registered. I'm not sure if my middle name is how I registered to vote. How do you know for sure how you're registered?
We will check that in our EIMA system, and if you do need to re-register or do anything at that point, they can take care of it for you and help you, assist you with making sure everything is correct in the system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the Declaration of Candidacy form. So this is the form that declares you, that you will fill out, and it will declare you as a candidate running for the specific office that you're running for. So this particular form, however, will not be the one that will be in your candidate packet. It is the one for the Secretary of State. So this is for voter nominated and nonpartisan offices, but we're going to be putting together another form that's more specific to the ROV, so it's less confusing, because some of the information on here is only specific to voter nominated, so we don't want to have that be a confusing part of this process. But again, it's just ensuring that all the information, please be sure to fill this out in its entirety, because all the information is very valuable for us to know in terms of being able to have accurate information in our records. The ballot information, the name and ballot designation that will appear on the ballot, make sure that you have your name. If you're going to write something out on these forms, please very clearly write out your names so that we can read it. Again, I highly encourage you, these are all fillable forms, so I highly encourage you to fill them out, typing in the information so that we get all your information correctly on the ballot. Then the address, telephone, fax, email, and website information. We will want to know what you are okay with us publishing or not publishing online. So it is important, if you are okay with your mailing address to be published online but not your residence address, then only click publish next to the mailing address. Or if you only want your business address published, then don't click, the other two. The information for telephone numbers, evening fax numbers, that information, if you don't tell us otherwise, that information is just going to be for us. So we would not be publishing that information online. And then, let's see if it goes to the next page. Yeah. And then qualifications. This is just information that we need to know if you're the incumbent. Actually, I don't even think, is this something that they fill out, or is this for voter nominated? Christina? Okay, so we will have to look at the information to ensure, and after we determine eligibility for this, but the qualifications are essentially that you would just fill it out and that you just put your public office that you are currently in, if you are indeed the incumbent. And then the oath of office, once you have filled out all the information, all the documents you've filed, everything's good, then the oath of office needs to be signed by you and then notarized either by a notary, or you can come in and it can be done by one of our election specialists. So either way, that's fine. If you're not going to come into the office at all, that's okay. We can work with you, like I said, over Zoom. Make sure all your paperwork is in good order. You sign all your documents, you do your oath, and you sign in front of an election specialist or a notary. And once that is complete, then you can submit your original documents all together. Every document needs to be submitted together at once and delivered to the ROV in a manner that will get it to us before end of the nomination period, August 7th at 5:00 p.m. Any questions on the declaration of candidacy?
Yes, this is Roy Rockland from Fremont Union.
Hi there.
I just wanted to make sure I interpreted what you were saying correctly, that if we do it via Zoom, we don't need to make a special trip to a notary. Is that correct?
You do. You would. So it's one or the other. So essentially, the Zoom gives the ability for you to fill out your documents in a virtual environment so that the election specialist can actually witness you signing your documents. Then you would submit those documents back into the OneDrive, and everybody can review them at the same time. You and your election specialist that's assigned to you will work with you together to look at that. And then once everything is good to go, you sign everything. If you're not going to come in and sign the declaration of candidacy in front of a election specialist, then you do need to go to a notary, have that notary do that for you. You sign in front of the notary, or have them verify your signature, because that's only what notaries do. And then mail, overnight, drop off, whatever method to get those original documents in a full packet with all the documents in one packet to the ROV before the end of the nomination period.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move on.
Bren, I have a quick question regarding
Sure.
a declaration of candidacy. What you said is that the county is currently modifying that form, and does that mean that we will only submit one declaration of candidacy form, or will we also need to submit the state one as well?
No, just one form.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, my thing got out of control there. So, okay. Now I also wanted to, oh, this is the ballot designation. Sorry. We're still on the wrong form here. Okay. So any other questions with regard to ballot designations? I mean, declaration of candidacy. No. Okay. We're going to go on to ballot designation then. Okay. Now, this can get a little complicated sometimes, so we need to make sure everybody reads. It's a very good idea to read the page 4 through 6, it has a lot of information in here for you to learn how to properly put a ballot designation together, because often what happens is there are restrictions and people want to use that particular ballot designation. We only get one ballot designation, and if that one particular one gets rejected, then we have to go through a process of trying to get it notified to you. We'll send out a certified mail letting you know that it is rejected, and you need to get back to us if you want to work out a different work out a situation where we can work on that, changing that for you. But you if that doesn't occur, then you won't have a ballot designation on the ballot. So highly suggest that you provide a proposed ballot designation as well as 2 alternate ballot designations. So what will occur is that if your proposed, for instance, gets rejected, so we don't accept it, we'll go to your next one. If that gets accepted, we'll take it. That's the first one we'll take. Or if it gets rejected, we'll go to the second alternate ballot designation until we either get one or we reject all 3 of them, and then you will hear from us. So another reason to have your paperwork back in sooner rather than later. So if there are situations that occur like this, everything is completed and mitigated before end of nomination period, because once it is filed, that's it. No more going back. So be very aware of adding information. So look at on your first page, A through E, that will provide helpful information as to, putting your profession, vocation, occupation. It has to be a maximum of, or can be no more than a maximum of 3 words. However, proper nouns, if you look at how to count words, a proper noun, which is a name of a profession, could be 5 words, but it's considered 1 word. So we look at that, whether you, the full title of your public office, you can put in there. You can be, if you're the appointed, the appointed official, you'd want to put that in there, and then you'd want to note whether it's for the same office or for another office. Or if you're the incumbent, you can just put incumbent. You don't have to put incumbent for that office. You can just put incumbent, or the appointed incumbent, which is the appointment of the current public office that you're in. So it'd be the same office. So that's what you're running for, because you can either run for the same office or you can run for another office if you're choosing to switch. And then go to the next one. Make sure also that you fill out, when you create your proposed and your 2 alternate ballot designations, that you also fill out the justification form. We're going to be looking at that, and any supporting documents for that justification of your, of your vocation or your profession or occupation. You'll need to submit that as well. And then also review questions 1 through 12 down there at the bottom, because that will, those will be asking questions to determine, it's a worksheet that determines whether or not, if you have too many yeses, you might not qualify. Your designation might not qualify, or it could be rejected. So be sure to use this worksheet and read through it thoroughly. And again, we'll work with you and help you if you have questions after the fact. But it's really important that you know what is acceptable ballot designation and what is not an acceptable ballot designation. and go on from there. So if there's any questions about that, let me know. Okay. Okay, so candidate statement of qualifications. This form is will allow us to just pull again information from you for our ballot layout department. Uses this information to put on the ballot, and also for the candidate statement that goes into the voter information guide. So actually, this is just for a voter information guide, I do believe. But all this information is very important, and it's just very general. It's very similar to the CVIG, and it does, we are also including varying degrees. So if your name is transliterated, then we need to know, you know, if it's masculine or feminine, or transgender masculine or transgender feminine, and some other information. So pretty self-explanatory, but if anybody has any questions, let me know on that.
Acceptable word count, 200 or 400?
That is what your district will allow you to have in your candidate statement. So you can let us know if you need to find out if you can have a 200-word or a 400-word candidate statement, and how the district will pay for that. I think sometimes it determines whether the district will pay for it or the candidate pays for it, and that might determine how you want to file, or if you want to file at all a candidate statement, because it is optional. You do not have to file a candidate statement. That is completely up to you. But when the district adopts their resolution, they will let us know what they are accepting as a word count statement, and whether or not they will, again, pay for it. If they, sometimes they split it with the candidate. Sometimes the candidate pays for the full amount, but it's also, the cost of it is a deposit. So you won't know the entire amount of the candidate statement until a few weeks after the election, when all the, you know, everything comes in and everything is completed, and our fiscal department determines that, because you could either, you know, pay a deposit, get a refund of some of it, or have to pay over what you paid as part of your deposit. So you can find all the costs on the website. It's in the candidate guide for your district, and if you have any further questions on that, we can certainly talk through that. And also in your candidate guide, or in your candidate packet, you will receive the rules for counting words in for candidate statements. It's very, you know, it's very similar to trying to figure out your ballot designation name, but the candidate statement is quite longer, so it's obviously has a lot more words, and using proper nouns and bullets and characters have quite a bit of restrictions in there. So it's important to review that, and when you're writing your candidate statement, be sure you have that next to you. So if you're typing away and you're looking at certain formatting, check those rules, because you might not be able to do what you're trying to do. And so that,
Fran,
yeah.
I'd like to do a quick time check.
Yeah, I know it's getting,
Okay.
so I've got 2 more forms to go through. So any other questions on that? Okay, so we'll get through the next 2 forms, and I will, if anybody wants, I'm happy to, because I know you guys need to get on to your next meeting, but I'm happy to work with you. I can show you over the phone how the new forms are going to look. You can give me a call and I can walk those through with you individually. So I won't go through those forms. I'll just finish up these two last forms. Okay, so the preferred transliteration form, this is a form that is used because when someone has a character-based form or character-based name or a alpha-based name, it gets transliterated certain ways. And so we need to have, or if they have accents in their name. It's very similar to also the Vietnamese name accents form, which is the next form you'll see here. So both of these forms are used essentially to ensure that the transliteration of your name is being done in the way that you prefer it to be done, because often you'll have a certain preference for a transliteration of your name and the ROV will have a different one. We will work with you to identify the correct transliteration of those names. But you need to let us know how that's going to do it. Otherwise, it gets translated with our ROV, and you need to let us know you're opting out of having to provide your own preference to that. So any questions on those two forms? It was kind of a quick overview, but we'll go over it more later too. Okay. So that's it for me. If you guys have any general questions, I can answer those real quickly, or get you guys on to your next meeting.
Bren, a quick question.
Yeah.
Regarding the FPPC, the 700 form.
Yes.
If I'm currently working for an organization that has some contracts with the school district, do I file that FPP 700 form now, or is it that after my election, if I get elected, that I need to file that?
So you would file your candidate statement, Form 700 now, and report whatever economic interests you have with regard to that. Because if you are on the board, you are working with particular projects, and it comes up at a board meeting, then you would need to recuse yourself. So you'd have to have that information on file now, and they do become public record. So you would fill out your form as a candidate, but then later, after you are, if you are elected, then you would file an assuming office statement with the same information.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So any other questions? Okay, well, we're here again. We're here to help. Happy to take individual calls if you all want to just get in touch with me. Bonnie does have my information. You can email me or you can call me. My direct phone line here is 408-282-3041. My email is bren.lehr, bren.lehr @rov.sccgov.org. So have a great day, have a great next meeting, and thank you, Bonnie, for helping. If there's no other questions, then we're done.
Thank you, Bren.
Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll stay on for a few minutes in case anybody has questions.
Hi, quick question. I see that the meeting is recorded. Will you
Yes.
be able to send us a link?
Yes, we will be putting the link online.
Okay.
So it'll be available up there online.
Okay, thank you.